Done. Go ahead and take off.
Yeah, so obviously we always want to bring in whatever law we're focusing on. You have the book, you have, what John Maxwell wrote, but how can we take what we've learned there and move it into what we're doing, which of course is building our business, because that's the focus of what we're all on this call for, what we're all focusing on moving forward in. And getting to the point we all become better leaders for our team. And so I loved the law of navigation. I think obviously it's one of the laws, it's one of the big laws, and there's no doubt that it is necessary. He actually talked about the fact that this is not his area of gifting, and he's so glad that he has people around him that has that, because the one that I am reading is the 25th, or his 25th edition. So it had like COVID-19 in it and stuff like that. So if yours wasn't there, then he may not have said that in your book. But he talked about how how this wasn't his gifting, and he was so glad that he had people around him that he is gifted, that has those giftings. Now, I personally feel like everybody needs this gifting in some shape, form, or fashion, especially in what we are doing as a business, because so much about what we're doing is vision, right? And so, the law of navigation of vision, strategy, decision, and tenacity. These are what I believe or what we believe are the key things to really understand the law of navigation. Okay, so let's start with vision. So, you got to know your destination. How many times have we talked about this? Like, this is so real that we understand that vision is key. If you don't know where you're going, then you're not going to go anywhere. If you don't have a time that you want to get there, then it's going to be a slow road to China if you get there at all. So we have to know these specifics when it comes to our vision. So know your destination. And that's why we're always going to say, what's your purpose here? What do you see here? What are you wanting to accomplish here? A leader without a clear destination is just drifting. Your business success needs a defined target. So we've got to bring in some definition. I mean, people don't get on a ship where it says destination unknown, right? We get on a ship because we know exactly where it's going, and we know exactly when it's going to get there. And this is a huge part of of somebody that is moving faster and somebody's moving slower. This is just an absolute reality. If you are speaking with a clear vision, then you're going to move a lot faster than somebody that is sharing no vision at all.
When you're in a situation like we are, where you're in a company where you don't write the checks because you didn't start the company, it's important that you're always cognizant of who's at the top, who's the leader, and can I trust that the leader's navigating me in the right direction? And so you're probably on this Zoom because you feel that way. When we think of David Schmidt, we have to understand, first, it starts with his navigation processes. And so the law of navigation applies to him. Well, one reason why we're in the situation we're in today as a company is because the leader at the top is not only one of the most profound inventors of the last 100 years, but he's also an incredible visionary. To me, that's rare. I have not seen many scientists that have the vision that he has, and that can articulate the vision that he has. If you get him on a stage, what he's more passionate about than anything is telling you where he's going and where he's taking this company and what's coming ahead and how he's going to get there. And he's got a clear 20-year plan. We've actually seen his right now, the entirety of his 20-year plan. There's things that to date right now, we have a confidentiality verbal promise to him that we won't reveal all the things that he shared with us. But and he'll reveal those in time to the masses as he chooses. But you've seen enough to know that he's got a solid 20-year plan. Okay, but that doesn't mean your whole team is going to understand all that, especially in the beginning. You now have to be the captain of your own ship. Within the ship, we've got this visionary that leads the company. Now you have to be a team navigator. You have to be a team leader, and you have to be able to paint vision to your team about where you're going. It's almost like I got a text and a phone call last night from a very good friend about a new investment. And I mean, he was just ecstatic about it completely. And he's going, you got to get on board. You got to do this. I mean, and here's what I'm doing tomorrow, and da, 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 and yada, yada, yada. It was all this. And so and immediately I sent the video to my 3 sons and said, to check this out. I want to talk about it tomorrow, all that kind of stuff. And so basically saying, here's where this thing's going. Okay. And I watched the video of the owner of the cryptocurrency, and everything was about here's my past, and here's where I'm taking this, and here's where I'm going. And do you want to be a part of this? And so I'm just giving you that as an example. And so now I have the choice to either take my money and invest because I buy into him and what he's saying, or I don't. And so you got to ask yourself, are people buying into me? Now there's a whole chapter on that, the law of the buy-in, which we'll get to. But you got to paint good, you got to paint great vision about exactly where you're going. Hey, we're on this life wave train. And here's the people I'm taking with me. Here's how we're going to build this. Here's where we're going, and so on and so forth. Diane and I made a commitment at the first of the year, and we're going to help 7 people get to 7-figure income by December 31st. And we're on track for that to happen. And so we'll see at December 31st how that goal shakes out. And then we set an original goal to take 40 people, to help 40 people on our team get to a 6-figure income by December 31st, 6 figures annually. That would be $8,333 per month. We can't guarantee you a dime. All we can do is give you systems and processes and help you and lead you on that journey. But that's who we're looking for. That's who we're trying to help build. Well, we've had to readjust that goal and course correct, because now our goal is 60, not 40. But that's how explosive everything's going. So we've got a team vision within this corporate vision.
Well, even in Steve and Gina's vision, we all know that Steve and Gina's vision is 1 million strong. That's what they keep, talking about. So there is these visions that we're running in, corporate vision, team vision, personal team vision. So, you knowing what they are, you sharing what they are, and then of course, inviting people to come along, if it's with your passion, your excitement, your confidence, all of these things are really important as you're deciding your destination. Okay, so just like Danny talked about, sometimes we have to chart the course, and we have to figure out what's it going to take to get there, right? So if we know where we're going, then we start talking about what does it look like to get there. That's why we have the video on what is your video on how much
How do I get to X amount of dollars per month?
How do I get to X amount of dollars per month? It's such a great video because a lot of people are trying to chart the course. I want to get to $10,000 a month by the end of my first year. So therefore that video is put in place so people can start charting the course. They can start understanding what it looks like. They're going to start their navigation keys and have clear milestones on what that looks like, their ranks, their team size, their enrollments, how many reach outs they're doing with their DMO, are they doing 5, 3, 10? What does it look like? Because that all is determined according to the navigation they have in place to hit the mark and to arrive at their destination at that time. And so that's so important. And then there's sometimes that you got to course correct, just like what Danny was talking about. When we started realizing that things were moving faster than even we expected in the beginning of the year, we made the course correction of making sure that we expanded the vision and went from 40 to 60, because we saw that people were going to reach a bigger goal, and we wanted to have something to reach for and to continue to share. So, we're so excited, but the course corrections are important. We don't want to do the same thing and get the same result if we're not getting where we want to go as fast as we want to get there. So there's always that time that you have to evaluate where you are and what you're doing and decide, am I getting, am I on target to hit my destination? These are so important for you to understand. And there's times that you're going to have to adjust, not abandon. You're not a failure. All successful people have had things that they failed in. It's part of success. Success and failure go together. So don't ever feel like just because you failed, you need to quit. That's not the case. You're learning. Failure is just something that you've learned from. So, and then the speed of control.
So here's an example of that. We just finished up running a $100,000 incentive called Passport to Paradise. And in that incentive, there was a minimum point requirement of 50 points to qualify within, the 10 weeks that we were running that, in order to be in the race to earn it. Well, when that incentive finished, we had 14 people that had earned it, and we still had 11 spots that hadn't reached the 50 points. And so we had to start going through the whole process of course correction. Okay, what did we do wrong? Our people are incredible. They want to go for this. They're trying. They're working hard. How can we still reward them? What can we do to try to help them qualify, for this contest? And so we had to examine, did we miss it on point systems? Did we miss it on rewarding them properly for certain points? And we went back and readjusted the rules and added more point qualifications, or more points for raising up managers and directors, and for ranks. And next thing we saw people just really explode over the next 2 weeks, and did an extension, and the contest wound up being absolutely incredible. It was awesome. But we had to as leaders, we had to navigate that thing. We had to make course corrections.
Exactly.
And, you know, just from a team standpoint, you know, we'll tell you about David and Terry Miller, you know, who are elite senior presidential directors. You know, David and Terry Miller, you know, they had almost 50% of the earners out of the 25 earners on this trip. And they even earned an all expense paid trip for themselves, because Diane and I ran the incentive for our SPDs that if you had 50 points or more, we were going to take
had the most.
You know, top two. We were going to give two of them, and David and Terry qualified for that, so they're getting their trip for free. So they decided they're going, and so and in doing so, they saw the end from the beginning. Okay, they saw here's the end. The end of the trip is here. Here's the qualifications for it. The date is September 3rd through 7th. We want to now identify who are the people on our team that want to go for this. So they identified the team members, and then they set up a 6-week accountability course. And then they confirmed the tools they were going to use with the team. You know, it's just like Royal Edmondson, you know, what he did. You know, he identified, I need dogs. I don't need horses and machinery, you know, in the North Pole or in Antarctica. It's freezing there. I need the animals that are adjusted to that. And that's dogs and sleds. You know, and I need all this other equipment that's relative to those cold weather conditions to be able to achieve this. And he achieved his mission. Well, David and Terry did the same thing. They confirmed the tools. They confirmed that their brand partners knew how to use the tools. They were committed to developing the necessary skills. The team was, and the team members who were committed, they committed to the action and the activity that are required to reach the destination. They saw the end, and Dave and Terry mapped out the process and say, here's how we're going to get to the North Pole now. Here's how we're going to get to Mexico. And this is the process. Will you take the action? And they journaled and prayed, the team did, that they believed they could or would achieve that goal. And 11 out of 24 of them got it. And David and Terry got it as well. That's the law of navigation. That's leadership. That's someone saying, I'm going to believe my team, and I'm going to do my very best to take this team in the right direction. And so the next point is we got to decide and commit.
And this is a huge point. The decide to decide, you know, moment where you really do, you know, realize, hey, I'm doing this. There's no question about it. I'm not wondering. It's not just a good idea. This is something that you've decided upon and you're committed to. And so goals are checkpoints on your journey. Goals are your checkpoints on the journey. So leadership is it's decision, activation under uncertainty. So it's decisive action under uncertainty. Sorry. And then the 3 keys: own your tough calls. You know, no one else will. You've got to do what's necessary to get it done. Risk is a price of progress. If there's anything I feel like people really hesitate to do, is it's their hesitation to take risk. And risk are necessary in order to accomplish great things. You know, there again, success is not comfortable or convenient. You're going to have to take risk. A bad decision corrected beats no decision at all. So, you know, that's part of it. It goes back to, you know, you just doing it, because there's so many times that I see people just unwilling to just make a decision. Like just to do it uncomfortable, to do it afraid, to do it uncertain, just do it, make the decision and move forward, because that's the only way that we move forward.
Great risk, you know, equal great rewards. Big battles equal big rewards. It's always going to be about your battles. It's always going to be about risk and having some real tenacity. So it is truly deciding and committing. But remember, you're the navigator. You're the one that's leading people in the direction that you want to go in life. And if they're not coming, you always have to do self-analysis. Okay, why are these people not coming with me on this journey? Why do they not want to join? We've got this incredible technology that's probably the most prolific technology we've ever seen in our lifetimes. We have an incredible compensation plan that we've never seen. It's really hard for anyone to compare it to take a minimal investment and earn the kind of incomes that people can earn here on a daily and weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. That it just helps the average American or the average person around the world achieve all of their dreams in life. So we have all these things. We have a great leader at the top who's a great visionary, and he's got even more things coming in the future that are going to add wellness and change people's lives all over the world. So we have all these things. We have the tools. We have the systems. Why aren't these people coming with me? Okay, that's where we can't condemn ourselves. We can't become insecure. And we can't beat ourselves up, but we have to analyze, what is it that I'm saying or not saying? Mm-hmm. Am I talking too much? Am I not a good listener? In fact, I had a conversation with one of our leaders yesterday. And in that conversation, I said, here's the thing. When I'm on the phone with somebody, a team member or a prospect or anybody, I want to listen over 80% of the time. I am going to listen. But as I'm listening, here's the thing. I've never taught this before. It just came to me yesterday. As I'm listening, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I'm looking up at the ceiling because I'm thinking, see, I'm hearing them talk. and I'm thinking strategically. Okay. I'm intently listening to them, trying to strategize how I can best help them with what they're saying to me. Okay. So I'm not already, I don't have a premeditated thought that I just can't wait for them to shut up so I can say something next. That's most people. You just got things to say. You want to say it. And it's really about shutting up, listening with strategic thoughts in mind of how can I best serve this person? How can I best help this person as they are talking to me? So sometimes it's just we talk too much and we got to become a better listener. Sometimes it's I actually do have to change my hairstyle. Sometimes it actually is I really do have to change some of my maybe accessories. I may have to change my wardrobe. I may have to change certain things about my personal hygiene and appearance and dress that are going to make a difference. And so those little things do matter in every situation as we're leading people.
Yeah, so good.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing, in regards to deciding, committing, we want to give you a short version of our first year network marketing. Okay. The spreadsheet you're looking at, don't worry about it. You're not going to be able to break the whole thing down, but I'm going to show you a couple of key points about our journey and how we navigated. Remember, we started with $130 28 years ago with no credit cards, no one to borrow money from, and a hope and a dream. We weren't professional network marketers. We never had we joined a couple of companies and never even done anything, never even gone to a meeting, never got on a phone call, never went to a convention. So we never did anything in network marketing. This was the first time that we ever took any kind of action. And so network marketing is always about the new guy. Like it annoys me when people start saying, well, y'all had success, or they're professional network marketers or whatever. No, every one of us started as a non-network marketer. We all started at zero. Every single person who's ever been in network marketing that's had success started at zero with no network marketing experience. So if you're that person, welcome to the club. That's why you're here. We're going to help you get success, teach you how to get success. Okay. So here's the thing. If you look at the top graph, like you see individual volume and PGV, that's kind of like our retail sales and recruiting people, the volumes. And they're going to be different than what you're used to with LifeWave. So don't try to compare those perfectly. Wholesale commissions are kind of like we're bringing new people in and the commissions you get paid. Where you see override column at the top and LS bonus, that's like binary check and leaders and matching bonuses. Those are the big ones you want to pay attention to, and the total check. And you can look at signups too. We didn't have massive amounts of signups necessarily, but here's the thing. We start at zero, okay? And you notice that we didn't even have like a binary check, till April the 15th. Okay. We get our first check on March the 18th of 1997. So we had worked it a couple of weeks, prior to that, and had gotten our first check for $672, but it was all commissions, like PIBs. There was no binary, no matching bonuses, for 30 more days. And we're working this thing hard. Okay. So we're building methodically. It goes 0, 0. And then we finally have a $154 check. That would be like getting a $154 binary check. And no
2-week checks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. And they're not weekly. They're every 2 weeks. Thank you, Diane. And that's 0 matching bonuses, so to speak. And then we bumped to 413. Well, what the thing was, is our goal was to get to 25,000 a month in a year. Okay. So it's March 18th. We've got till March 18th, March 17th to get to $25,000 a month. So in charting this, I just want to point out a couple of things here. We started growing, what you would see as a binary every 2 weeks, growing that check. And like if you're looking at your current status, that would be half, because it'd be weekly. That'd be like $75, and that'd be like $200, and that'd be like $175. But we're getting paid every 2 weeks. So we're growing. You see how we're growing a little bit at a time. It's compounding. And you can see how that goes. And then we took a little jump to 1433 on October 7th, 1997. And so now there's a dip. Here's where I want to give you a law of navigation tip. Where you see my arrow right now, where that dip is, our check was $4,200 on October 7th, and it went down to $2,377. Why did it drop? It dropped because I had a big far-fetched dream of going.
You took a risk.
I took a risk and me and my sponsor drove to North Carolina. We lived in Austin, Texas, drove to North Carolina to try to open up Charlotte, North Carolina for our company. And we're going to get a bunch of distributors in North Carolina and open up Charlotte, and it was going to be our city. And we spent 9 days doing that. And it was 9 days of flopping like a fish, dying on the land, and get back home to Austin. And everything we had taken a dip because I wasn't paying attention to the team. I wasn't paying attention to the laws that were moving us forward, which was our daily method of operation and our plan. And I got distracted by another city that I didn't have the capacity to build at that time. Because we didn't even have social media. We didn't have the internet to work with. We didn't have Zooms and FaceTimes. You had to be on the ground. And you weren't going to do that in 9 days to open up a city. So we made a course correction and got back on track. And you see how the check went to 1421 and back up to 4,000, but it took, a delay. Okay. Then fast forward to the $25,000 a month. Well, here we are in January, the beginning of the year, and where you see this yellow bar, our total check was $3,734 for 2 weeks. And we're 45 days away from the $25,000 a month goal. How in the world are you going to get to 25 grand a month when right now your total check is 3,700 times 2? It's about 8 grand a month. How are you going to get there? Plus your retail profit. So maybe 10 grand a month at the most. How are you going to get to 25 grand? Diane's going, Danny, we got to stop telling people we're going to get to 25 grand a month. She's saying, quit. You got to stop saying it. And I'm going, no, we're not. Here's where we're going. See, it's like your ship's in the middle of the ocean and, I don't see land yet, but I know land is there. I know it's there. I know we're going to hit that island and hit those shores. And so that's what happened though. We kept beating the drum, kept speaking life. Nothing changed. We just stuck to our daily method of operation, and we got to $25,000 a month by the end of our first year, because those two figures right there, plus our retail sales profit, were 25,000 a month. And then after that, it exploded in 2 weeks to 20,000 a month in 2 weeks. And so it was really all about the law of navigation. We knew where we were going. We put a plan together. We stuck to the plan, except for one time when I went to Charlotte for 9 days, and we never quit speaking that life. So stay the course.
Yeah, just be relentless in your navigation. Obstacles are part of the journey. Storms, they're not going to stop you. They come and they go, but it shouldn't stop you from reaching your destination. So just keep in mind that leadership is a mindset. You adjust your sails. You never abandon ship. Never, never, never abandon ship. We don't go down with the ship. We never abandon ship. Persistent and consistent. We always talk about staying persistent and consistent, and then inspire your team through your example of endurance, because you're setting the example. People are watching you. People are watching how you handle things, how you stay the course, how focused you are, how fast you're moving, or how slow you're moving. These are all part of the things that everybody on your team is watching. So, you determine the example that you want to set for your team according to, the daily habits that you're putting forth and the way that you're navigating yourself forward. And, if you have a small, if your vision is small, if your destination is small, then you're likely to recruit those that have small destinations also. So just keep that in mind. You recruit who you are. And so don't expect to go out and recruit some big fireball when your vision is slow and relaxed. It's just very unlikely to happen. So just keep that in mind and be realistic with what you're recruiting. And, that's the great part is we get to determine that according to how we want to put forth our efforts. So we have a declaration that we added. I can't see, what did I put over there? I can't remember what it says. Okay. Yeah. So I refuse to drift. I will navigate my vision with clarity, strategy, and relentless courage until I reach my mark. I am fearless and unshakable. So just a reminder that this is what navigation is all about. And it's been what we've been speaking all year long, is that we are fearless and unshakable, and nothing's going to stop us. And we're going to stay the course. We're going to be consistent. We're going to be persistent, and we're going to accomplish what we've set out to accomplish by doing so. So very exciting when we grab all these things and truly run with them.
When you set sail, we got to wrap this up because it's already 1:32 and open it up. But guys, when you set sail on your journey, you set sail on a journey because there was a picture painted to you of a destination that you can possibly get to. And so it's so bright and it's so glorious that you just got to get there, because we're going to walk the beaches of the world together. We know that. We know that we're going to travel the world. We're going to see the mountains. We're going to see the beaches and everything in between and experience that. And so you as a leader, you got to keep in mind that the people that you are gathering, they've yet to see the things that you have already seen. And your job now is to help get them on your ship and say, here's the island we're going to. Here's the destination we're going to. And I know you haven't seen it yet, but let me tell you what it's going to be. Let me tell you what it looks like. Let me tell you what's going to happen when we get there. All you got to do is join this thing with you. You got to just get on board with me, and we're going to get there together. And so that's how you do it. Okay. So now, the last thing, is basically this. We got to go to the greatest leader that ever walked the face of the earth. Okay. His name was Jesus. Made that very clear. I'll never back down from that. There's never been a leader on his level ever. He wrote the leadership book of all for all of history. It's the most sold book in the history of the world. And it's not just a life-saving book. It's also a leadership book. It's a history book. It's everything book. It's an everything book. Okay. So what did Jesus say about leadership? In Mark 11:22-24, he said this. So Jesus answered and said to them, have faith in God. Okay. So there's point number one. He said, you got to have faith. You have to have faith, guys. Y'all have faith in something. I mean, we're walking down the street yesterday and there's cars coming at us 40 miles an hour and we're walking by the curb. Well, I have faith that they're not going to veer off and smack me and knock me, 50 yards down into the woods. Every time you get on the highway, you have faith that that 18-wheeler is not going to crush you. You're just driving. You're driving, cars passing you 70, 80 miles an hour. You could have a head-on collision, in a second, but you have faith that they're not going to veer off the path. Every time you get on a plane, you have faith that pilot's going to get you where you're supposed to be. It's think about every day. There's daily things where you just accept it on faith and go. Okay. Jesus said, have faith in God. Said, for assuredly, I say to you. And that means he meant it. This is your greatest leader ever saying, assuredly. I'm telling you, assuredly, you got to know this. Whoever says to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, and does not doubt. Okay, there's the prerequisite, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done. Guys, you're going to have mountains. Between you and the destination you're going for, there's going to be mountains. Yeah. That's just part of it. You got to go through the mountain. You don't go around. You got to speak to the mountain, because as you speak to the mountain, you're saying, be removed. And how do you do it? In the name of Jesus. You remove it. You say, mountain, move. Obstacle, move. There's going to be stuff in the way. And it's called, sometimes they're called little foxes. Sometimes they're called obstacles. Sometimes they're called trials and tribulations. Sometimes they're just called, this is situations and circumstances. Sometimes it's just, we veer off the path a bit, but whatever it is, you speak to the mountain and you just got to say, move, 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 mountain. Because if you believe those things that you say, it will be done. But you got to believe that you can speak to mountains. You got to believe that you can move mountains, and he will have whatever he says. Okay, Jesus said, whatever, you will have whatever you say. So he says, therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe you receive them and you will have them. So part of this whole law of navigation is you having faith, you speaking to mountains, you not having any doubt in your heart as a leader, and you believing and receiving what you're asking for. And as you do that, the right people will be on this thing with you and you'll reach your destination.